Good morning. It is an absolute honor and privilege to stand before you today. I want to share with you this amazing miracle that happened to me. And if you knew me before God crashed into my darkness, you'd be that guy. Yeah, I was that guy. Let's just say I wasn't raised in the church. I didn't live life like I was following the Lord, and my reflections and lifestyle showed it. I was given blessing upon blessing upon blessing, and I didn't acknowledge or appreciate where it came from, because it was by my works and my hand and my effort, and that couldn't be farther from the truth. So quick background on me: I was, my young adult life, I was a deep sea diver in the Navy, and then when you're 22 and know everything, you decided to go out and work in the Gulf to go work on the oil rigs. That didn't happen, and I actually ended up in a career in law enforcement. I didn't want to be in law enforcement, but they had a search and rescue team. And I said, I made 300 dives when I was in the military. That's something I know how to do. Let me get on board that. And it's funny, of course, the year I get hired, they disband the search and rescue team. God has a sense of humor. And my path, I saw highs and lows, from the highest high to the lowest lows during my career in law enforcement. And there was a time in 2002 I had a crisis of faith. And without getting into too many details, I walked away from, I was pretending to be a Catholic. I didn't know the first thing about the Bible. I knew heaven, hell, God, Jesus, and Christ's sacrifice, and that was the extent. It was the only effort I put into it. I couldn't tell you the Old Testament, New Testament, anything. I was like, yep, that's the Bible. Yep, that's God's word. And so I was so lazy in my faith, I needed an excuse just to walk away completely. I got one in 2002. I walked away from the church, told God I was grown, and I got exposed. From 2002 to 2009, my life spiraled out of control. It wasn't like an instant catastrophe, which can happen, but mine was real slow and gradual. Personally and professionally, I just unwound. And I give all the credit to the Lord that why I'm here today. I'm not even supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be dead as a doornail, but he saw fit to save a wretch like me. Amen. July of 2009, I was at such a low point in my life that I knew I was desperate and I needed God. I had a longtime family friend just reach out to me and say, Ollie, man, why don't you come to church with me? And I was desperate, and so I went. And I heard, this was in San Diego. I don't know if any of you have been out that way or not, but it was the Rock Church in Point Loma with Pastor Miles. And I heard him speak for an hour, and I learned more in that 1 hour than I had in the rest of my life that I had pretended to be a Catholic. And I was touched by the Holy Spirit. I could see the flames coming off of me, and I'll never forget, July of 2009 is when the Lord put his hand on me. And he began to rework me and rewire me. And I got a job. My final assignment on the sheriff's department was child abuse. And I worked horrific sexual and physical abuse cases against small children, 14 and under. And I see we have a little guy here, and it's your call, but it's rough. And I won't spare. So just letting you know, heads up. And so how I got that job was a miracle, because I was at the lowest point of my career, and I had been working at a courthouse because I was burnt out. And I had worked in 2 different institutions. I worked 10 years in patrol, community policing, gangs, back to patrol, and I was just burnt out. And I get to the courts where they don't put rising stars at the courts because I'm just moving bodies, and it's a mindless job. But I used that time to pray. I was given a study Bible, and I just started little by little. I have a break here, a break there, and I crack open the Word at work. And I started, digging into God's Word. I tried to get 5 different jobs that I was overqualified for, and my toxic and award-winning personality came back to bite me. The most embarrassing one was I arrested an active shooter at a school in 2001 with my team, and we had him in custody under 5 minutes. And I went to be the school resource officer at that same school many years later, and they said, thank you, but no thank you. And my beat partner and dear friend was a supervisor. I walked into that interview and said, when do I start? And they said, yeah, no. And that hurt. And that was showing that I was just low. And that was professionally. Personally, my life was in shambles. I was one breath away from divorce. I very could have easily turned to the bottle. I didn't. Didn't say I didn't dabble, but that could have been something very easy. I had lots of friends do it. And I was a mess, to say the least. And God, he rewired me slowly but surely. I get a phone call out of the blue that says, I want you to put in for child abuse. And I was like, ooh, that's rough. That's, hard cases against little kids. I don't know if I'm wired to do that job. But you don't get too many calls like that in your career when they ask you to do something. So you just do it. So that's what I did. I prepared for my interview. I was competing against 15 other detectives that were better than me in every way. And I was the least likely candidate. And God opened that door and I got the job. And this is what's important. I've been associated with San Diego County Sheriff's Department since June of 1994. To this day, almost 30 years later, nobody has made that move from courts to advanced investigations, which is homicide and child abuse. Hasn't happened in 30 years. And to this day, still no. I'm the only person that's happened to, not because I'm awesome, that's because God's awesome. He opened that door, I got that job, I went right to work, and I started praying on my way to work, saying, God, save me from my stupid self. You know me, I'm hard-headed, I'm stubborn, I'm hot-tempered, and when I get mad, I don't play well with others. And save my family, save my finances, save my kids, because I am a mess and I'm desperate and I need you. And I heard I would either pray or listen to the word on my way to work. I had about a 25-minute commute. And then from there, I said, okay, Lord, am I where you want me to be? Am I doing the job you want me to do? And I'll do anything you ask. I said, but please, my fear is not that I won't be obedient. My fear is when you talk to me, I'll miss it. So when you communicate with me, would you please make it super simple so somebody like me can recognize it, preferably single-syllable words, a sign about this high and about that wide. I don't want to miss when you communicate with me. And last but not least, if you can use me for the kingdom, please do. I'm not proud. I'll sweep the floor. I'll take out the trash. If you can use me in the smallest way for the kingdom, I'm at your service. And he did. And that's what we're going to jump right into. September 25th, 2012. I'd been in child abuse for 2 years. I was the lead investigator on over 100 cases. I'd helped out on another 30 or plus. So I wasn't brand new. I considered myself a journeyman. I did not consider myself a seasoned veteran in this discipline yet. And I show up to work fat, dumb, and happy. My boss hands me this note and says, hey, I need you to go to this station, a station that I spent 10 years working at. There's a mom there. She has a cell phone that's got pornographic images on it. And so I said, pornographic images off a cell phone, that's downloaded off the internet. That's a federal crime. We'll send that to ICAC. 10.2 seconds, the case is fixed. There you go, that's why you hired me. Of course, my boss looks at me and is like, really? No, I don't need you for that. What I learned was that it was actually the mom's 6 and 8-year-old child. I'll spare you the details. I called the young deputy that got the case and I said, hey man, make mom comfortable. Don't touch the phone. I'll be there in an hour. And just make sure everybody's all right, and I'll pick up the investigation from here. I gathered all the senior detectives, said, this is what I got, this is what I'm doing about it. Am I leaving anything out you guys think's important? And I said, no, we like your plan, go forth and conquer. I had a partner that I normally worked with, but he had a case about 50 miles away in a town called Vista. And I said, when you get done in Vista, meet me out in Lakeside. I know these towns, they're about 50 miles apart. And I said, when you get done over there, meet me out in Lakeside. If this goes away, I think it's going to go. I'm going to need help with a search warrant on the house. And he said, okay, I'll be there. I get down to the station. I meet with mom. First words out of her mouth, I do not trust law enforcement. My ex-husband's doing a lengthy prison sentence because the detectives lied, falsified, and manipulated the evidence. Let's pause right there and let's get to the facts of the matter. She was married. She had 4 children. She lived in the state of Virginia. Her husband had molested 2 of her kids for a long period of time. And when confronted with the evidence, he admitted because it was so overwhelming and compelling. So the 47-year prison sentence that he got was because he had done horrible things to her children, their children, and not because anybody lied, falsified, or manipulated evidence. I spent about an hour talking to her, trying to convince her to let me work for her. I said, let me help you, let me help your girls. You don't have to trust me, you don't have to like me, but let my work speak for itself. I want to be the voice for your kids. They are babies, they don't have a voice. Let me be their voice. She thought about it for a little while and then said, okay, I'm in. And I said, please break this down to me. How did we get here today? What started this whole chain of events? And she says, I thought my boyfriend was cheating on me. So I woke up early, I grabbed his cell phone and I started going through it, and instead of calls and texts from the other woman, what I got was images and photos and videos of my babies being horribly abused, and I'll spare you the details. So I pulled the memory card out of his phone, I grabbed the babies, I went down to his work, told everybody at work that he was a big child molester. I came to the sheriff's station here, and here I am. Fair enough. She showed me what she had captured on the phone, and it was, I could work 1,000 cases and never get it this overwhelming and compelling. The evidence was so strong, the judge would not allow the video to be used against the defendant who took the video in the first place because it was too prejudicial against his defense. Yeah. But I worked with an amazing district attorney, and he said, no problem, Your Honor, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to blow up photos my size and this wide, and I'm going to put them all around the courtroom. So no matter where the jury looks, they are going to see what this guy does to babies. And so we'll just take it from there. So that's kind of a quick fast forward. So I'm observing all I have, and I know I have it so good. I have everything I need. During the time of this sit down, bad guy wakes up, realizes that the memory card's out of his phone, and starts blowing up her phone. I captured 3 phone calls from him. Each one was half hour long. The first hour was complete denials. No, it wasn't me. I didn't do it. No, I don't know what you're talking about. No. Lie, lie, deny, lie, deny, lie, deny. The last 10 minutes of the last call, he said, okay, look, I don't want to talk about it over the phone, but here's the deal. I was offered to be paid $50,000 by some guy to make these videos. We're struggling financially, and I knew that this would get us ahead. That's why I did it. And I never hurt the girls. Yeah, I know. Oh, I never hurt the girls. I was always caring and gentle, so that made it okay. Don't everybody puke all at once, because my blood burns every time I have to say that part, but that's what he said. That was his rationalization and justification for being wicked to these babies. He said, but I don't want to talk about it anymore. Why don't you come home and I'll tell you the whole thing. We killed the call. I said, that's a wrap. I got still pictures, I've got video evidence, and I've got an admission of guilt over the phone. I'm good. Under no circumstances are you to go home until I personally come and get you and the girls. We put a safety plan in place for her mom. We moved a whole bunch of pieces around so that I could do my job. Normally it would be just me and my partner that was up in Vista, 50 miles away. But I was at my old station that I spent 10 years of my career there. So I walked into the gang and street team guys. Half of them were my old partners. The other half were my old trainees. And I said, you know what? Hey guys, I'm going to go pick this guy up, down the road here in Lakeside. I said, can one of you come with me? Well, they had nothing to do that day. Apparently, by the grace of God, they said, we had a down day today. You can have the whole team. I never get this much help. And so I said, man, awesome. The supervisor says, and I'm coming too. So I said, sweet. So we did our brief. We broke it down. We ran him. We did all this stuff. We made a plan in place. And she says, hey, I want you to know something. He's got guns. And I said, no problem. This is Lakeside. Everybody has guns. And so we did the background checks on him, and he had no criminal history except a misdemeanor out of Wisconsin, a misdemeanor vandalism, that when he was, 10 years prior. So the bells and whistles did not go off. He did not have an extensive criminal history, which is what we found with these people who prey on little kids. They fly under the radar. They have minimal law enforcement contact. It's not like I'm going to a biker clubhouse and doing a search warrant and blowing doors and getting wanted violent felons and gangsters off the street. These are people who, they just blend in. They look like everyday people. They may have a speeding ticket or a parking ticket or something very minor. And they don't have this long history. So, okay, no problem. I put surveillance out on the house. They had him going in and out. It's an apartment. Actually, I say house, but it's actually an apartment. He was on the upper level. And mom says, hey, don't go through the pedestrian gate because that's right in front of our apartment. He'll see you coming. Go through the back parking gate. Here's the code. Here's keys to my apartment. You may go in and take whatever you think you need for this investigation. And I'll even put it in writing on our form that's, I got written consent and keys and best avenue of approach and a warning, hey, he's got a gun. No description of what. She left out a few things that were important. She left out that, hey, he hates the government. And in particular, he hates all manner of law enforcement. And he would rather shoot it out at the drop of a dime than be taken into custody. He's an avid outdoorsman, hunter, and shooter. He knows his way around weaponry, and he trains all the time. She left all that out because had she told me that, I would have brought bigger guns. And so we have him at the place. We know where he's at. I've got surveillance. It's time to go. I'm driving. We're making our way. I called my partner up and said, okay, we're changing locations. We're actually going to the house now. Meet us out there. He said, I'll be there as soon as I can. I'm not in a rush. I had a whole team plus 2 trainees, a supervisor. I had people that I would never normally get. I have the whole place surrounded. I'm putting all the pieces in place that I think are going to help us be successful. I've been doing this job a long time. I get up to the door. I'm the lead detective, so that means I'm the first one through the door, and I'm the last one to leave, and I'm accountable for every piece of evidence and the manner in which it was collected and where it was collected and documented, so that when I take it to the DA's office, it can be, accounted for accordingly. So I get there, and I'm not in a rush. I say, man, this is an easy day. We've been pulling these guys off the street, left, right, and center, and we haven't met violent resistance. So I beat on the door. I call him out by first and last name. He won't come to the door. We know he's home. And, a couple of things happened on my way from the station where I was at to his apartment, which is about 3.5 miles from the station. Even though I said specifically, do not call him, do not talk to him, do not nothing until I come personally see you. They were on the phone together. And we don't know what was said. We know by phone records we can prove they were on the phone. We don't have the meat and potatoes of that conversation. She either warned him to say, get ready, the cops are coming, or how you've been messing with my kids, I got something for you. We're not sure. We could never prove it. So I'm beating on the door, calling him out by first and last name. The entire complex knows. Sheriff's Department's there and who we want to talk to. He's not coming. So I have a key to go in. Experience teaches me you don't just walk into somebody's house unannounced. That's a surefire way to have a fight you don't need to have. This job has plenty of violence to go with it. You don't need to make more for yourself. So I'm not in a rush. So I got the key, and I hit the bottom lock with it, and I check it. He's got the deadbolt done. I'm getting ready to go on the deadbolt, and one of my partners on the back side of the apartment complex gets on the radio, and he goes, hey, I hear a little girl screaming, and I cannot tell if it's the apartment you guys are trying to get into or the one next to it. Well, we all know what he does to babies when he's alone and has an opportunity. That could be my kid, your kid, my niece, neighbor, the kid down the street, doesn't matter. We're not going to let that fly. So what are my options? So I hit the deadbolt with the key and it's rigged shut. That's an old trick from the jail we've seen 1,000 times. He's inside. He does not want to be held accountable for his actions. My only option is to force entry. A supervisor on scene, his name was Craig, and he says, Ollie, you kick in the door? I said, yes, sir. And he said, hey, mule kick it. And I say that because you guys see my arm in this sling, which is a forever sling. But when you're new on the department and you're young and you're excited, you kick doors like this. Boom. 18, 19 years goes by. A couple carne asada burritos later, your knees ache, your bones start aching a little bit. So we kick the door this way to save my knees. Well, here's some things that had happened along the way. It was high noon in Lakeside. It was a bright, bright, bright sunny day. And bad guy had taken the time to black out all the windows of the apartment with blankets and towels. Then he flipped over all the furniture and made strategic firing locations throughout the apartment. So I boot the door, and the funniest thing happened. The whole bottom half of the door bent up like this and then snapped down shut. And I never had that happen in all the doors I'd kicked in my career. Now my partner, Mike, he was there with me. He just looks up like this. Now let me translate what this means. Okay, Haas, you're 6'2", you weigh 275 pounds, and you can't kick a door open on the first time. All that's being communicated without him saying nothing. So he basically called me a big sissy. And then, so of course, my manhood gets called into question. So now it's time to really break the door in. So I do it in glorious fashion. I blow the door open, slow motion, wood chip, door jams, the whole bit goes flying. Wind blowing in my hair. That's how you do it, boys. And I take one step into the apartment and all hell breaks loose. He was laying on the floor about this far from here to the window. He was laying flat. He was on his stomach. He had a rifle, an old World War II battle rifle called the M1 Garand. It was chambered in a .308 when he opened fire. The first round hit me in my left arm, almost took it clean off. It hit me right here in the arm, and it disintegrated everything up between my elbow and shoulder, just disintegrated. It ripped off my bicep, severed my brachial artery, damaged all the nerves, and just almost, the only thing keeping my arm intact was a piece of tricep meat back here. That's it. Otherwise, I would have lost my arm right there. What happened to me instantly, if you guys see the old UFC fights, when the guys get knocked out and their whole bodies lock up, that's what happened to me. My whole body locked up in the door, and he could have finished me off in the door. I took one step into the apartment, I get hit in the arm, and I'm turning, and I'm face to face with him, and then I go down on my back. I see nothing but white static, and then the gunfight starts. Craig and Mike are stuck in between this apartment door, a landing, and another apartment door, and he's got a high-powered rifle with multiple firing positions, and no armor they're wearing is stopping what he's shooting. And he just goes to work, starts shooting everywhere. Craig and Mike drop down. They instantly return fire into the apartment. They don't know where he's at. They have to guesstimate. And what that did was allow me time to recover. So when I recover, and my best guess is 15, 30 seconds, I don't know. Everything got real slow with me. I glance out the door and I see Craig on his knee. Mike and Craig are both kneeled down and they're both firing into the apartment. And what just happened? What truck just hit me? I was like, what happened? Okay, I hear gunshot. Okay, I've been shot. How bad is it? I don't know. I need to start looking for holes. So I start at my feet, start working my way up, checking for holes. Okay, you're good, you're good, you're good, you're good, you're good. You get right here, and this is how my arm sits. This is where my brain told me my arm was, but it wasn't there. So I was having this whole weird conversation with myself while all these bullets are going crazy. Like, man, where's my arm? I don't know. I better look for it. It was actually, this is where I felt it, but it was actually up over my head. But this part, instead of going this way, was going that way. Yeah, that's what I said. That's bad. I need to deal with that in a minute. And if you take a gallon of milk and you start pouring it, that's how bad I was bleeding. So I said, okay, I've got a brachial artery severed. It's right next to my heart. I've got about 4 minutes before I lose consciousness. 4 minutes after that, I'm going to be dead. So for the next 4 minutes, I need to kill this guy. And that's that. So I was just running through very simple questions in my head. Am I alive? Yes. Can I breathe? Can I see? Yes. Where's my weapon? In this hand. And had I gone through normal front ways, my strong dominant hand would have been all messed up. And it would have been really hard for me to get into this fight. Because where was my backup gun? It was in the gun safe. Great place for it in the middle of a gunfight. I don't mind pointing at my faults because we all have to learn from this stuff. And I hurt. And like nobody's business, man. I felt like I got run over by a truck and set on fire. That's how bad it hurt. But I was just having very simple thoughts. Where's the bad guy at? see bad guy, shoot bad guy. Now I'm laying on my back and I have tunnel vision so bad, all I can see is this hallway. I had no idea what the apartment looked like till 2 years later at the preliminary exam. And so what I got a glimpse of was him crossing my path, running and shooting from all over the apartment. And when he crossed my path, it's time to go to work. See bad guy, shoot bad guy, so we started. So I started shooting at him. And he ran down the hallway and went to a back bedroom. There was a couple of rooms back there that he was going and firing from the windows at all my partners that had gone out. Now, right outside when this kicked off, the supervisor got on the radio and said, shots fired, deputy down, 1199. I need ballistic shields, long gun, rally point, rescue team, all that. He laid this whole laundry list of things that we needed and where we needed them. But what had happened is rounds going through the wall cut his radio wire. So he was talking into a dead radio. And so he was trying to help, but nothing was going out. He got fragments that hit him and split him from wrist to elbow. So I looked out the door and I see him, and he's doubled over with all his meat hanging off his arm. He caught another one that hit him in the chest, left arm, left chest, went through his body armor like nothing. So from there, poor Mike, that's Supervisor Craig. So it's me, Mike, and Craig. I'm laying down. Mike's here and Craig's there, and I'm looking, and Mike is stuck. I feel horrible for him. If he runs in to try to grab me real quick, he's going to get shot full of holes, and then 3 of us are going to need rescuing. Now, I had 6 people with me, and they had retreated back here and relocated over here so they could regroup. And he's going from room to room shooting at the people that have surrounded the apartment. So there's a lull in the action. So I look over and I look at Mike and I said, he's got an M1. And they were, Ollie, where's he at? Where's he at? I don't see him. And then because I was in so much pain, I was dealing with blood loss, trying not to go into shock, keep my wits about me and stay inside this fight. I couldn't articulate very well, so I just kind of pointed and they would shoot. Well, they did that twice and it pushed him off of me because he had come back to finish me off. And even though they couldn't see him, they were firing in the house, and just the gunfire alone pushed him back. So then he changed tactics. He starts low crawling, and I don't see him. I have tunnel vision so bad. My whole world is on my back, seeing here to here. And a little bit over here is a flipped over couch right there and a wall. And the door right here. Now, don't think for 1 second I didn't want to hop up and get out that door and get medical help for my arm that I was about to lose. But my legs would not respond. My body was a mess. I wanted to get up and get out, but my legs would not cooperate. I'm like, man, it's time to go. And they said, no. We'll argue about it outside. How about that? Nope. I'm stuck. I have no choice but to fight for my life. Live or die. I don't see him. He's low crawling on his stomach, and a piece of that door trim that came off when I blew open the door. He reaches over me, hooks the door with the door jamb, pulls the door shut, remanipulates it, and runs back down the hallway. 2 years later, let me fast forward at the prelim. That was the one question the defense attorney asked me that I struggled with that. Detective Perez, how come when the defendant was right by the door, right next to you, you didn't shoot him? And it took me a very long time, many years, to realize what was going on. I was losing blood at an astronomical rate. I was fighting going off into shock, and my reaction times were getting slower and slower and slower. By the time I saw him, realized it was bad guy, told my arm to pull the trigger and shoot bad guy, he'd already come and gone. There's 3 times of this event I thought I was going to die. That was the first one. He locked me back inside the apartment. I'm in there by myself with my arm hanging on by a piece of meat. I'm bleeding like nobody's business, and I hurt like all get out. He runs back down the hallway, and I get movement and feeling in my legs, and I see him, and he peeks around the corner. He peeks around the corner, so I get some feeling back in my legs. I start pushing. I slide across the linoleum, and I know he's looking for me. When he rounds that corner again, he's going to put his eyes right there because that's where he expects me to be, because that's where I've been the whole time. I was able to slide over about 2.5 feet. It felt like 2 miles to get there. He peeked around the corner a third time, and I went back to work. I shot him twice right here in the midsection. Then he turned to run. I gave him a parting gift in the butt. And he goes down the hallway and starts shooting at all my partners again. The whole time, my people outside are yelling into me, hang on, Ollie, we're coming, man. I never felt alone. I never felt like my partners left me. None of that, not for 1 second. Because they were outside. And I knew that they were calling out to me, we're coming, man. We're coming, Ollie. Hold on, man. We're going to be there. We're coming. And I knew all I had to do was stay alive long enough for the cavalry to show up. And everything's going to be all right. He pops around the corner. He shoots me a second time. This one hit me in the chest and went through my whole body and left a hole through me the size of a grapefruit. I had bullet fragments go in 80 different directions. And God's honest truth, when I got shot in the chest, I barely felt it because my arm hurt so bad. I can't explain why. That's just, in my case, that's what happened to me. And I had a thought and pause like, man, he didn't shoot me in the head. I'm still alive. I can still fight. So again, we commenced to shooting at each other, and I run out of ammo. Now I'm wearing a tactical vest. I have 4 spare magazines. I have plenty of ammo on my chest. I know exactly where it is. I can reach it without looking. I've had it staged that way for years. But when I got shot in the chest, my vest shifted over 45 degrees. And I'm under maximum amount of stress. I have catastrophic and life-threatening injuries. I got bullet fragments in 80 different directions. My lungs deflated. I'm missing a rib. My diaphragm's messed up. I've got fragments all throughout my internals. And I'm in bad, bad shape. And now I'm really bleeding. The entry wound was the size of my hand. The exit wound was 2 out the back. And I'm just bleeding like nobody's business. And so when he locked me in, I was like, okay, it's him or me. And I'm not dying in this nasty child molester's apartment today. To my last breath, to my last drop of blood, to my last bullet, I'm killing this man because I'm not dying here today. I run out of ammo. I drop my magazine. I set my weapon here mid-thigh. And I reach over and I pull out a magazine. I'm staring at it just like this, telling myself, don't put it in backwards. That'll be problematic. And let's get your weapon hot. Let's kill this man. Stop playing. As I'm staring at it, bad guy walks over, kicks it out of my hand. They find it in the corner of the apartment later on. He stands over the top of me with his rifle, and he said, where's your duty weapon at? Now, I was wearing black dress pants and a button-up and a tactical vest, and so my weapon, it just meshed in real nice, and it just hid, and I'd forgotten where I'd put it. So he's standing over the top. He said, where's your duty weapon at? And I just looked right at him. I said, I don't know, man. And he walked away, and thank you, God, he walked away. I didn't realize that at the time he was out of ammo. So he's walking, and then I hear a bing. His magazine box comes out. Now the light goes on in my head, and it says, okay, first one to reload wins. First one to reload gets to shoot the other one. I promised everybody in this room nobody wanted to kill this guy more than I did. So I'm frantically reaching for my ammo, but now, can y'all still hear me? Now that everything shifted over, and I had four magazines standing straight up, then now they canted over like this. And I needed to get my arm. I talk with my hands, and you guys see me up here easy like nothing, but in the midst of that fight, just to get my hand to go from here to here took every ounce of my effort and concentration. So I was over here. Now I'm trying to undo a Velcro strap to reach in and pull out a magazine, and I can't because my body is just maxed out with stress. And I'm frantically, do not fail your wife, do not fail your kids, you're not dying here today, get your weapon hot, kill this man. That was going off in my head about 1 billion times a minute. And then I hear him put in what sounds like a fresh magazine box. And up until that point, I was good. I didn't have time. You hear people say I didn't have time to feel this, that, or the other. It is true. I was too busy. I only had 2 thoughts. Am I alive and can I fight? Nothing else mattered. No matter how many times I was shot, that didn't matter. No how bad it hurt, that didn't matter. My set of circumstances doesn't matter. Am I alive? Can I fight? That's all I cared about until I heard him put in the fresh magazine box. Then I started panicking, and that made my situation worse because then my hand doesn't work. And I'm over here trying to get my arm over so I can act of Congress to get my hand to move. And I'm digging, and it won't work. And then I hear him cycle his weapon and charge it. Now he's fully reloaded, and I haven't even got a magazine out of my tactical vest yet. That was the moment that I knew I was beat. That was the moment that I knew I was going to die in this nasty child molester's apartment. I had just failed my wife. I just failed my 2 kids. And never mind the gunshots, that failure alone almost choked the life out of me right there. I have one job, that's to go home after every shift, consequences be what they will. I can get beat up, I can get in a car accident, I can get into a cast, I can have surgery, I can get broken bones. I can't get killed. I got to go home every night. And I just failed my family, and the weight of that failure almost finished me off right there. So I was sitting there, and I was sad, and I was angry, and I was confused, and I was really, really angry, and I was frustrated. I was feeling, at this point, this whole tidal wave of emotions hit me. And then this little voice sounded off in my head, said, "You're not dead yet. Get your weapon, make it hot, kill this man, stop playing." So that kind of refocused me. So now I'm back to work digging for my magazine, but the anxiety is building up and building up and building up. And at this point, I know I'm going to take a bullet to the head, not any second, but any moment, and I can't take it anymore. And I said, okay, if today's my day to die, so be it. They're not going to find me rolled up into a ball. They're not going to find me begging. They're going to find me that I looked him in the eye, that I took his best shot, and I see what he's made of. I raised my eyes, fully prepared to die and accept my death, and what I got was a miracle instead. I didn't see Jesus appear. He was there when I raised my eyes to accept my execution. And it was magnificent. I get asked this all the time. What did he look like? All right, people, check this out. He had a white robe. He had a white sash around his waist. He had straight, dark brown hair, kind of curled up like that. He has a real dark beard. And my man has a nice tan. How do I know? Because he had his back to me. He was surrounded by 2 rings of white light, and inside those rings were inscriptions that I'd never seen before or since, so I call it writing from heaven. There was a small little desk. There was a little wooden stool, and behind that wooden stool was a leather-bound Holy Bible. Let's break this down. I am real, and my word is real. On that desk was a black bottle of ink with a white feather on it. This warm bathwater feeling washed over me, and I'm telling you, I was in agony, and in the presence of the Lord, I felt 0 pain. I got the courage to speak, and I said, "Lord, I trust you completely. What do you want me to do with this guy?" He sat down on the stool, he pulled the feather out of the ink, he started writing. He never speaks to me. Everything inside the apartment is visual. He puts the feather back in the ink bottle, and that note comes off his desk like a leaf in the wind, lands right here on my tactical vest, and I pick it up. And in beautiful calligraphy, it says, "I want you to bless him." Let's review. He shot me full of holes. I shot him full of holes. Horribly molested 2 baby girls. Shot the supervisor outside. In my worldly mind, I'm thinking Jesus is going to say, "Hey, I'm giving you a minute, reload, finish the job." No, Jesus exhibited his qualities, which against somebody that we can't stand, people who hurt babies, and he extended grace and mercy to him. So this is what I want to tell you guys. There will come a time in your life the good Lord's going to speak to you. And when he does, there's only one answer, because the only thought that went through my mind was, "Yes, sir." And that's the answer. No, yeah, but. No, this ain't fair. No, well, look what he did. It is, "Yes, sir." So now I have my time with the Lord, and I have my time with the bad guy, but Jesus, he saved me. He gets all the credit first. He gets all, I'll explain what happened in a little bit with the bad guy. So I'm in no pain. I can breathe normally. And he gave me this note that said, "Bless the bad guy." So I look right at the bad guy. He's standing there. He doesn't say a word. He's about, if I'm standing here, He's about, Jesus is here. He's about right here. He doesn't say a word. He's staring at me without speaking. And I said, God bless you, brother. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't even move. And so I said it a second time, God bless you, brother. You know I'm going to pray for you. He took his fully loaded rifle, that M1 Garand, chambered in the 308, and he set it on the ground because I was obedient to the Lord. Now the second vision starts. Now I spent 100 days in the hospital. I couldn't talk for 40 days because I had tubes and trachs and all this stuff. I testified to my wife. She was the first person I told. I said, I do not understand inside the apartment how I was able to read all the notes that he had written for me, giving me notes and instructions for me and my family on that desk when I was laying there by the door. I don't get it. It's not possible. Try laying down on my back right here and then try to read notes up on the desk. It doesn't work. And when you go through these critical events, you're going to lose bits and pieces of your memory for a little bit. And as time goes by and you decompress, those bits and pieces of memory will come back. And later on, I realized that I was actually out of my body. I don't know it though. I think I'm by the door the whole time, standing with my hurt arm on his shoulder, reading the notes over his shoulder. Now, the second half of this vision, the floor clears away, and I can look straight down, and he shows me the gates of hell. They were lined with stone in a rectangle shape, gray stones. But he was merciful to me. He covered it with a black cloud. He covered the entrance with a black cloud. And I heard screaming in agony and torture and pain that there are no words in the human language to describe. And I needed that to forgive the guy that shot me. Because until I heard that, I would have been the first guy to grab him, throw him down, spit, give him 2 middle fingers and say, I hope it hurts forever. You deserve it. And I heard that, and it took the hate out of my heart. I heard suffering that humbled me, that was only capable to forgive this guy by Jesus. Because forgiving people is hard, and especially family. Because you know they can push your buttons just the right way. And it is hard to forgive family. Nobody escapes this. But he showed me this miraculous vision and these people suffering. And it changed my heart where I could forgive this guy with a sincere heart. Now out of that cloud comes this giant red dragon. Don't take my word for it. Open up the book of Revelation and read chapter 12. Satan, that great red dragon of old. He shows him to me. And the message is loud and clear. This is our enemy. This is him in his true form. I'm showing him to you. This is what the entire world is up against. And I'm going to show him to you so when you see him, you'll recognize him. And he was huge and he was roaring and whipping his tail and all this stuff. And I'm in awe and a little bit terrified and in awe, but I'm hiding behind Jesus, so I'm in good shape. And then that vision goes away, and I'm back by the door where I kicked open, where I thought I was the entire time for my third and final vision. Now, right here, I didn't finish explaining. When I kicked open the door, there was a wall that ran this way to about this far. And it, like a big screen, just about equal to right here where it has my name up on it. And it gave me the vision of the skyline of the city of San Diego. If in your travels you ever make it out to San Diego, go to Coronado Island, go to the ferry landing and look from west to east the skyline of the city of San Diego, because that's what he showed me. Why Coronado? Coronado was near and dear to my heart. 30-something years ago, I was stationed on the amphibious base over there. I went through my deep sea diver training over there. I met my wife over there. I proposed to her over there. And many years later, my son proposed to his girlfriend in the same spot. He put me in a spot that I would recognize. He put me in a familiar spot and showed it to me. So I'm looking at the skyline of the city of San Diego. Okay, San Diego, I see it. The interesting thing about it was there was a circular clock on this side, and a calendar over here on this side above the skyline. And the interesting thing about the calendar, it wasn't a 30-day calendar. It was one of those dailies, either that you turn them or you rip them off or they flip. So I'm watching. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Skyline, clock, calendar. Then the clock starts spinning like a complete blur, like a fan on full speed. The calendar started flipping like if you took your thumb and ran it through a yellow pages. Started flipping like that at a complete blur. I don't date set. I do not know the date nor the hour. Some stars, some clouds move in, a little drizzle, a little lightning. Some of the bay water started washing up into the streets. And then every building, every window, every blade of grass, every car, everything was burning and on fire. End times, biblical prophecy, what the Bible says will come to pass, will come to pass. I stake my eternity on it. I stake my family's eternity on it. As amazing and horrifying and terrifying as all this stuff was, it was not about fear at all. The message that he was conveying to me that was loud and clear was, before this day happens, there is still time for each of us to humble ourselves, to get right with the Lord, and men, lead your family to the Lord so your children won't be lost. That was the message, that there's still time. That vision goes away. I'm by the door where I thought I was the whole time. Bad guy looks right at me and says, would you like to crawl out to your friends now? At this point, we're at minute 10. I've got catastrophic and life-threatening injuries, and we're at minute number 10 at this point. Rescue teams down at the bottom of the stairs, they're all rallied up. I'm inside this apartment. Everybody outside's hyped up and worried. Many of them, my partners that know and love me, thought I was already dead. And I said, yep, I'm ready to go. He kind of squats down. I don't see the Lord anymore. He kind of squats down, makes his way towards the door. He makes it halfway to the door. Rescue team sees something. I don't know what they see. They light the house up. Boom, 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 boom. So he goes diving back. And I think to myself, man, I'm not going to see that guy again. I got to give him credit. He got up one more time, and he tried to open the door for me a second time. They light the house up again. He goes diving back. And this time he turns and he looks at me and he shrugs his shoulders like, man, I'm trying. I can't make it to the door to open it to let you out. And then another crazy thing happens. He takes off running. He goes full Superman, and he lands right next to me. He plops down here. We're shoulder to shoulder looking at each other like this. I'm all shot and bleeding. He's all shot and bleeding. And he looks at me and he goes, I'm done, man. I'm done. And I said, it's okay. It's all right, brother. It's going to be all right. He goes, hey, I got an idea. I said, yeah, what's that? He said, let's go together. Oh, man. This is the second time I thought I was going to die out of 3. I thought he brought a gun and I missed it. I thought he was going to kill me and kill himself, kill me, shoot it out and be killed, or kill me and take it out into custody. But I'm looking, and I see the Lord for the last time right here. He has his back to me. And I know exactly where I'm going. I'm at complete and total peace. I'm going home to the Lord, and that's a win. And so I looked at him and I said, I'm ready, man, let's go. And he stopped, he paused, he took a breath, he looked back at me and he goes, I can't do it, man. I just can't do it. So he got up and he ran and he dove where he was initially when I first kicked open the door right here. And so I take 2 deep breaths and realize, man, he's not shooting at me. The rifle's right over there. And he yells out one last time, I'm done, man. I'm done. So now I'm thinking, okay, it's time to go. And I don't know after all this time how my legs started working, but they did, because when I really wanted to get out, my legs didn't work. I get movement in my legs, and the good thing about being shot with a rifle twice is that you bleed a lot. And I needed that blood to slide across the floor to make it to the door. So there's always something positive out of this, right? I'm in no condition to open doors and manipulate handles and whatnot. I don't have an explanation how that door got opened other than God. The door's open. I'm getting excited. My partner's outside. Challenge me. Identify yourself or you'll be fired upon. I don't realize that my lung is collapsed and my diaphragm's all jacked up, and And so I'm thinking I'm using my big boy voice. Hey, it's me. I'm coming out. Don't shoot. And they open fire. And so all these rounds go over my head. Boom, 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 boom. And I said, okay, man, that didn't work. I tried getting on the radio. That didn't work. I tried yelling. I tried waving. I tried everything I could think of. And they did it a second time. Boom, 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 boom. And I didn't know what to do. And I was like, man, how am I going to get out of the apartment? I'm desperate. I want to get out of here. And then I guess apparently in all this fun I was having, I had time for a joke. Man, the good Lord did not just come down here, spare me from being executed, give me notes and instructions for the rest of my life, show me the gates of hell, show me Satan, show me in times biblical prophecy for one of my partners to shoot me in the head. Besides, they're aiming way too high. You're down here on the floor. You're fine. It's time to go. I didn't know what else to do. I reached over my arm. I grabbed my arm by the elbow. I yanked it. I hoisted it like a flag and waved it back and forth. And somebody said, hey, Ali, we see you, man. Come on out. Thank you. I scoot over to the door. I get my head by the door with my neck. I force open the door, and I can look outside, and it's pitch black in the apartment. And then the sunlight comes in, and I see a bunch of guys are all, come on, man, come on, Ali, let's go, man, time to go. And so I'm pushing with my legs, and I get stuck halfway right at my belt. I make that part of my body's out. My feet and legs are in the apartment. And so rescue team runs up and grabs me, but they have to make a sharp turn to get me down the stairs. And when they start dragging me down the stairs, my arm got caught in the banister. Don't worry. All the nerves were cut. I didn't feel a thing. And a good thing is I was about to pass out just then, so that woke me up. And so when my arm got caught in the banister and I was just getting ready to check out, I feel my head being shaken like this, and I hear one of my partners screaming, he's stuck. So partner crosses my face, unhooks my arm, it wraps around me the wrong way, and they're dragging me down the stairs. And his face is pressed up next to my face, and I'm bleeding all over him, and I'm raining blood, and I feel bad. But my vest starts to choke me. So I start to talk, and I said, his name was Anthony. And I said, Anthony, I can't breathe. He just finished sensitivity training. He said, shut up, I'm busy. So we rounded the corner, and then boom, he drops me. And this is the part of the story where if he was sitting right here, this is where he jumps up and screams and hollers, no, I didn't. I set you down. I didn't. I got the microphone. I'm telling the story. He dropped me. Come on, man. I'm precious cargo. Don't drop me. But what he really did was this. And here's what was really going on. I'm barely conscious. He set me down. He jumps on top of me because bad guy has a change of heart, picks up his rifle, starts shooting at everybody again. So now they have to re-engage him from outside. So they're shooting in, he's shooting out, and the gunfight continues. In the meantime, he's laying down on top of me, protecting me with his body, knowing that he's probably going to get shot and that the armor that he's wearing won't stop what this guy's shooting. He did it anyway because he loved me. Not only that, the poor mom that lived directly under the apartment that all this chaos was happening, she had run out with her two little boys, like 3 and 5, like little guys, and it hid behind him. So he was my human shield and a shield for mom and 2 baby boys. And he did it, doesn't know their names, he just did it because that was what needed to get done. And that's just one of a dozen acts of selflessness that happened that day. And then the next thing I know, they dragged me out and around the corner to safety, and there was an off-duty police officer from the city of San Diego. He was a SWAT guy. He had training from Navy SEALs 2 weeks prior. Said, hey, our guys are dying out in the field, but we've got these high-speed medical kits. They help stop the bleeding. So we're going to set up all these mannequins and show you how to use them. Well, the mannequin that he got had my exact injuries on it. Left arm and through chest wound. And so I remember seeing him, but I saw him in a blue shirt, so I thought he was with the fire department. And I remember him giving Anthony instructions, jam it in until he jumps. So I hear my vest getting ripped open, and they're jamming, putting some kind of quick clot type stuff in this gaping hole in my body. I'm like, ow, that hurts, that really sucks, don't do that. And then, all right, fine, I don't care. Then that gets done. They grab me up, they put me in the back of the ambulance. And one of them partners jumps in and she's like, hey, we love you. We're going to take care of you. Everything's going to be all right. I said, I'm fine. Just get me to the hospital. I'll be okay. So we're off and running to the hospital. And because of the blood loss, I lose vision in my eyes. The O2 mask isn't working for me, so I take it off. It's easier for me to breathe ambient air. I tell the paramedic, I said, it's hard for me to breathe. They're relaying my vitals back to the trauma unit at the hospital, and it was, he's dead, he doesn't know it yet. That's how bad my vitals were. My vision pans out, and this was the third and final time I thought I was gonna die. And I'm like, okay, that's all right. I'm gonna die a free man, breathing free air. I did not die in that nasty child molester's apartment, and above all else, I just spent 3 minutes with the good Lord. That's a good death. I'm okay. I know what the chaos and crazy sounds in my head, so it wasn't me, it wasn't my partner, and it wasn't the paramedic talking to the trauma unit, it wasn't the driver of the rig. This little voice in my ear whispered, just hold on. That same bathwater feeling that washed over me in the apartment washed over me in the ambulance. That's the only time Jesus spoke to me. He said, just hold on. That was the moment that I knew I was going to be okay. No matter how long it takes, we're on year 11. No matter how many surgeries, 43. No matter how many thousands of hours of physical therapy to try to get something out of my arm, I knew I was going to be all right. We hit the parking lot of the ambulance, of the hospital, trauma surgeon, anesthesiology, jump up into the rig, the anesthesiologist. They open me up, they cut me open, they give me a breathing tube. They put me on a gurney and wheel me into the ER. With all my internal injuries, I needed 9 different specialists, the anesthesiologist and the nursing crew, plus the trauma surgeon to oversee it all. When in the history of medicine is that all available, all at the same time, right when you need it? Ain't happening. One's in Hawaii, the other one's on vacation, the other one's over here, and it takes months to line that up. They were all there, tops of their fields, ready. Another miracle. Operating room, prepped and ready. How long does it take to prep an operating room? About an hour. I had about 60 seconds. The last thing I see before going unconscious was a nurse. I know she had brown hair. She was wearing pink scrubs with teddy bears on them. That's all I remember. I don't remember what she looks like. I said, my name's Ali Perez. I've been shot with a rifle a couple of times. I'll do whatever it takes to survive. You have my consent. Do whatever you got to do to keep me alive. Those were my last words when I rolled me in for surgery. I'm in surgery for 12 hours. I'm going through 100 to 200 bags of blood and blood product. The anesthesiology hooks me up to this turbo pump and squirts it in, and every time they squirt it in, I'm going through a bag a minute because I keep leaking everywhere because of all the bullet fragments. He could have cut me off after 15 bags with a clear conscience, but he told me this 2 years later. He said, you showed up, you didn't have any blood left in your body, but your heart was still pumping. You were getting blood. That's the translation of it, the short version of it. Another miracle I can't explain. 12 hours, they come out, they tell my wife they can't stop the bleeding and to make preparations, I'm not going to survive. They were so sure I was going to die, they called the organ donors and put a lady right next to the room where my wife was at. And how I know this to be factually accurate is because the organ donor was the daughter of an assistant sheriff that I used to work under, and I had lunch with him 3 years after the fact. And when he explained, I didn't know that for 3 years. And when he said, hey, you never met my daughter, and he explained why, I said, man, I'm glad I never met her. And so they were so sure that I was going to die, that's how they had it lined up. They tell my wife, my son is there, and my wife's baby sister, or my sister-in-law was there. So we can't stop the bleeding. He's not going to make it. And my son says, nuh-uh, not my pops. You don't know my pops. And this is not boasting on me. I'm gonna stretch this here in a minute and explain the real truth. It's like, Mom, don't worry. Dad's got this. I did not get anything. God had me so I wouldn't break my son's heart. So he was saying, not my pops, and I'm saying, my pops has got me. God had me so I didn't destroy my family then and there. My baby sister-in-law runs out to the waiting room. By this point, there's hundreds of law enforcement officers from all over San Diego County. And they said, they can't stop the bleeding. We need to pray. Everybody started praying for me. I am the direct recipient of the power of prayer. I'm only alive because that got me over the finish line. Prayer works. It's very powerful. They are able to find the last bit of bleeding. They stop it. They come out. And they say, we got it. We stopped the bleeding. And everybody's cheering. 24 hours later, I hear my son. I open my eyes, but I can't see. It's pitch black. And I hear like a faint whisper, come on, Pops. Come on, Pops, you got this. Come on, Pops, you got this. Come on, Pops. We know you got this, Pops. Come on. We need you, Pops. Come on. I'm like, oh, my boy's right there. He misses me. He needs me. He needs to know I'm okay. Now, when I was in the military, I was stationed in Hawaii, and my kids were born over in Hawaii. I couldn't speak, but I wanted to let them know I'm okay. I'm just hurt. I'm hurt bad, but I'm just hurt. I'm gonna be all right. So I threw the shock out to them, and I heard everybody in the recovery room start cheering, and then I was it. It's grace upon grace upon grace, and miracle upon miracle upon miracle, and that's only about 75% of the story. I spent 100 days in the hospital, and the supernatural encounters I had there will blow your mind. But what I'm here to tell you is that our God is alive and well and real. And he will deliver you from your darkest, and he will not forsake you. He will not abandon you in your hour of need. I was as dead as a doornail, but I'm here 11 years later testifying to his glory. I wasn't raised in the church. I didn't know the Bible. I was a train wreck of a sinner. I was toxic nuclear waste. He crashed into my darkness and set me free. And I want what he did for me, for all of you, for all your family, for all your friends, for the whole world. I don't want a single person to perish and go to hell. So I want to deliver this message as long as I can while I got breath in my lungs. My arm may never heal. Secretly, I'm convinced I'm going to be giving his testimony. He's going to heal it in front of everybody, and I'm going to celebrate with y'all. But even if he doesn't, my mouth isn't broken, and I will share until he calls me home. I'm only alive by the grace of God. And we got a couple minutes left. I know I went a little long, and I get asked what happened to the bad guy. Bad guy was bleeding to death. He knew he was going to bleed to death, so he surrendered, was taken into custody. The district attorney listened to all the calls for the next 2 years prior to the preliminary exam to see if the girlfriend warned him we were coming, because they were going to charge her as an accessory. I get to the prelim, and just like I testified to you, I testified in open court in front of God and everybody how Jesus saved me, and I'm only alive because of Jesus. Not to boast on me, but to boast on my Father. If you throw my name into Google, it's still up. 11 years later. And they didn't delete it, and they didn't erase it, and they didn't suppress it. Somebody at the conference on Saturday goes, man, I Googled your name, and all your stuff, it's all there. And they haven't erased it. And I say this to boast on my God, to boast on my Lord, to boast on the Holy Spirit, to boast on them, not to me. And I want this for each and every one of you. So the DA listens. I testify into court. He goes back to county jail, makes a call to his mother. The mom says, hey, I just watched the prelim on TV, and that detective that you shot said he saw Jesus. Is that true? This is 2 years after the fact. On a recorded line, he goes, yeah, Mom, I saw him. He was there. I'm telling you guys, from the bottom of my heart, how real this is. And I just want to share this amazing miracle that just is so incredible. I have to pinch myself every day. It's an honor, it's a privilege to share this message with you. Bad guy got double life plus 90. He'll never touch another little kid again. I spoke at his sentencing. I forgave him. I said, I'm not mad at you. I forgive you. I want you, with whatever time you got left, to pick up a Bible and seriously get to know the Lord. So on that day you stand before him, you'll be welcomed into the kingdom and not rejected. I've had the privilege of witnessing with my own 2 eyes the vastness of eternity and the finality of God's judgment. And God bless you all. Thank you for hearing me. Thank you, thank you, thank you.